How you doing, baby? Happy Monday. And today on Coffee and Conversation with your girl, Shakenya. When you get a minute, go to that YouTube channel, Shakenya, and hit subscribe. Look at some of the videos, and if you see anything that you like, just hit share. I'm trying to throw that in there, little dance, and maybe that'll get you to go to my shit. Maybe a little dance to get you to go to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe. Oh, you know, I'm trying everything, baby. Oh, man, look. I'm trying everything. So, y'all, today, you know, we're talking about a lot. This is your senior year. We're talking about manipulation tips from your 9th grade year. And now, looking at them 4 years later, the adverse effect that it might have on your babies. And we're also looking at the psychological damage that it can possibly have on your children when you're doing all these things. Basically, when you're working against your baby mama, your baby daddy. Yeah, when y'all not together, intertwined, on the same page, simply working together, being in agreement, using all the C's of co-parenting, compromise, you know what I'm saying? Shit. I know it's a lot because it's so easy to do. So sometimes you can cause psychological damage to the babies and everybody that's involved, right? That's why I keep stressing to y'all about mental health and how important it is. Yeah. So it's a lot of psychological damage that's caused when you remove a child from a parent and there's no abuse or neglect. Because technically that's what you program into people. Yeah, if their children is being abused, you remove them. If they're being neglected, you remove them. You call CPS, you get a case started, you have them do their formal investigation. And if there's any evidence there, chances are a child will be removed and placed in the other parent's care. So, if there is no abuse or neglect, there is no CPS, there is no reason for no courts. And what do? How do you got to make it make sense. You got to have a reason for removing a child and removing a parent out of a child's life. You got to have a reason for that. Somebody got to answer to it. That's why we got to set up like a crime scene, because somebody got to answer to that at the end of the day. You have to have reasons. Like, it's amazing that ain't nobody asking your child where they daddy at and where they mama at. And then what story are they telling people when they're asked? What's being said about them? For the reasons why they don't have a relationship, they don't see their mama, they don't see their daddy, they're not active in their life. What reason do you have when you tell people, when they ask you? Or ain't nobody asking? I can't see nobody not asking my daughter where her mama at. I cannot see that for the life of me. I cannot. I have done so much with my life. I'm Googleable. I cannot see nobody asking where is her mom. And then when they ask where her mom is, what does she say? What does she say about me? So, let's get back to the psychological damage. You got to answer to that. When you take away something that's supposed to be there, yeah, it's you and him, y'all made the baby. So y'all both supposed to be there. Yeah, if y'all alive and well, you're supposed to be there. So when you remove something that's supposed to be there, you have to have reasons for that. Got to make it make sense. Yeah. No abuse or neglect? No? Okay. Well, what reasons are there? A parent has to first of all, you got to convince this child they're going to be okay. Yeah. How many lies you got to tell to convince this baby they're going to be okay without a mama or a daddy? Because we know that's not true. We know you're going to be fucked up if you ain't got no mama or no daddy. If one of the parents is absent from your life, you is going to be messed up. You already know that. You already know that. So what do you say to convince a child that they're going to be okay without their mama or their daddy? Yeah. What a child hath not want in their life. You affect their decision making when you remove a child. I know we don't think about that. We don't think about the surface. You know, we think about the surface stuff. The surface stuff is I ain't got to deal with him no more. Yeah, I ain't got to drop the baby off nowhere. Baby ain't got to deal with him. I done already turned the baby against him. The baby hate them just as much as I hate them now. Chapter's over in my life with that person. Let me move on. It's just that cut and dry. But that's just the surface. You got to think about the damage that's caused right up under that surface. Yeah. Did you ever think that decision making would be impacted? Your child's decision making would be impacted on that decision that you made to remove them from their parents' life? You probably didn't think about that. Yeah. How is that not a discussion had? I still don't know what I did. It's been 4 years and I still don't know what I did. Ain't that crazy? Yeah, when you remove a child, it gotta be something going on. It gotta be repetitious. It gotta be, you done warned them 3 or 4 times and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. They keep putting this baby in unsafe environments. They keep doing this to the baby. They beating the baby. They not feeding the baby. The baby dirty every time I come get it. The baby be musty every time the baby ain't eating properly. The baby's bad. All this stuff gotta be going on for you to have a reason to remove a child from somebody's life. So if ain't none of this going on, what are you saying to replace it? Because if they're not abusing them, you got to make it seem like they're abusing them. So what are you saying to people and this child to convince them that they're being abused? Fix it, Jesus. That's like when a parent calls a child to say that they're being molested by the other parents. They're telling them verbatim what to say to people when they ask about what happened and how they were touched and what the daddy or the mama do to them. And you telling this child to say this, but it didn't really happen. So yeah, so what techniques do you think were used to do that to a child? Any child. Probably not your child, because you probably ain't doing nothing like that, but any child. Yeah. So yeah, decision making is usually affected. You gotta convince this child that y'all have different morals and values. Let me send y'all some ways. Yeah. You got to convince this child that you have different morals and values. You got to convince this child that you want the best for them and the other parent doesn't. You got to convince this child that you had this baby's back and you're supporting this baby and the other parent not. Like, you really got to prove all this to this baby and convince this baby of all these things about this parent for this baby to agree and get on board with you to leave this parent alone. My baby ain't called me in 4 years. No happy birthday, no nothing. Yeah, that's a discussion. Yeah, discussion should have had to have happened to where the final decision was you can't see the baby, or we got to go to court, or CPS got to, that's the final draw. But it has to be a build-up. You got to explain it if it's not. Yeah. A child is taught to honor thy father and thy mother. They taught to cherish them. They taught to respect them. They taught to forgive them. They taught to have sympathy and empathy. That's what you're taught, naturally. It's a natural thing. Yep. Yep. What are the teachings? It's unnatural for a child not to have any relationship with their mom or their daddy. For a child not to have no relationship, have no respect, have no love for their mama or their daddy. How does that happen? Now the damage comes when you see everybody else respecting their mama and their daddy. Everybody you around, your child, meaning, is around, respects their mama and their daddy. But yet and still, your child does not have to. You got to explain that to people. You got to explain that. Why is your child the exception to the rule? Why is your child don't have to do that, but everybody else around them is doing so? Like, I didn't have her around nobody that was disrespectful to their parents. All my cousins, nieces, nephews, everybody got a decent relationship with their mom or their daddy. She was not exposed to anybody. And even on his side, I don't know nobody that didn't have a good relationship with their mama and their daddy. So why is it that my child the only one that does not have one? You got to make that make sense to people. You definitely got to make it make sense to that child. And if the child is going along with it, that means they already made sense of it, right? The consequences for doing that, first of all, it's a bad thing. Not to respect your mama and daddy is a bad thing. But how does this child know that it's a bad thing if they're being rewarded for it? If they're being encouraged to do it? Yeah, you're undoing morals and values that have been taught. You're undoing teachings that's been taught. Now the damage comes in at, what if y'all have the same morals and values? Y'all both telling this baby the same thing, but yet still the parent is telling this child that the other parent is bad and the other parent is wrong. So this baby got to decipher what's right and what's wrong, because if y'all both teaching the same thing, but yet and still one parent is telling this child that the other parent is wrong and what they saying is not right, but yet you want them to follow what you're teaching them and it's the same thing, are you confused? Fix it, Jesus. Fix it, Jesus. So now, what if y'all both want the same thing for that baby? But yet and still they have to convince this child that you don't want the same thing for the baby, but you clearly do. Let's take in my case, college. I wanted all my children to go off to college. I know college ain't for everybody, but I wanted them all to go off to college, right? So let's see, what are the contributions that were made in my child's life and my children's lives, because I have more than just this one baby that I talk about on Coffee and Conversation. So for my children's lives, the girls visit my sister at school. Yeah. We also went to go visit his sister at school. Yeah. Him and his sister both went away to college. That's a beautiful thing, right? That's their contribution, right? My contribution, again, they went to visit my sister. They attended both my cousins' graduations for her master's degree. The baby watched me graduate with my bachelor's, watched me walk across the stage, on top of watching me go to school. So right there, you know, education is very important to me, right? So if we both feel that education is very important, why I'm not a part of her educational, furthering her education and going off to college, why I'm not involved in that if we both wanted that for her? So that means he had to convince her that I didn't want that. Now, the damage comes in that is, if I contributed everything that I contributed because I wanted her to go to college, how can you exclude me from that life when we both wanted that life for her? So what if he possibly have told her to make her not think that I want the same thing when she's witnessed these things in my contributions? See, that's what I'm telling you. Before you start taking these kids out these parents' life, think about the damage that it's going to cause before you do it, right? Yeah, because I know you might not like them. You want to get back at them, and I know. And I get back at them if you have to. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I think you should be a baby mama or baby daddy. Y'all should be best friends, right? So I wouldn't encourage you to try to get back at them. But if you do think about it, and you're thinking about using some of these manipulation tips that I talk about, think about the adverse effect that it's going to have on your baby at the end of the day. So if you do this manipulation tip, follow it through, and then think about how it's going to affect the baby in the long run. Yeah, don't think so much of, you know, I know you're trying to hurt your baby mama, you're trying to hurt your baby daddy. I know that's your main mission. That's the main thing. But if you love that baby, you got to put that baby before your baby mama and your baby daddy. So whatever feelings you have for your baby mama and baby daddy, like I hated my baby daddy and his mama. Couldn't stand their ass. Oh my God, I wish I could have beat their ass every time I saw them. Ooh, this is Jesus, a Christian show. But because of the baby, knowing how she feel about them, I couldn't do that. So you know what I did? Instead of talking bad about them, as soon as she got in my car, I asked how they were doing. How's your dad? How's your grandma? Yep. No sarcasm, no crazy voice, no being funny. No, generally, how are they doing? Grandma in the hospital, she's sick. Oh, does she need anything? You want to drop her off some soup or something? That's me, that's me. That's how you got to be when you put the baby first. Why? Because you know how she feel about them. That's her dad, that's her grandmother. You know how you feel about your dad and your grandma or your mama and your people on the other side. Yeah, so you got to give that child that respect. You got to do that. Because that's another thing that they got to convince the baby of. They got to convince the baby you don't love them. They got to convince the baby you don't cherish them. You got to convince the baby that you don't have their best intentions at heart and in mind. You got to convince that baby that they're not being respected, right? So now the damage comes in Because if you're a parent like me, you don't never get off the phone without saying I love you. And you can't leave my house without saying I love you. Did you hear what I said? When me and my children get off the phone, and this has been since they were little, we tell each other we love each other. And when we leave the house, we tell each other we love each other. And I always tell them make good decisions. Whenever they leave the house, I tell them make good decisions. Yeah. And my Karen had said that the other day, my cousin Karen, and it was so funny because I couldn't do nothing but start laughing because I'm like, oh my God, Karen, we both do that. Because we was telling my little cousin to make good decisions, right? So, yeah, that's hard. What could he have done to make her feel like she wasn't loved, right? When it comes to respecting my children, do you know I knock on their door if it's closed before I go in? Do you respect your kids? Do you respect their privacy? No, it's your house. You can do what you want to do. Yeah, I knock on the door before I don't just bust in. Yep. And then when it comes to cherishing, I kept my children safe. Like, even though I had relationships, I got background checks on these dudes. Make sure they wasn't pedophiles. You know what I mean? I didn't molest the kids. I kept them safe. No accidents. No harmful and no domestic violence relationships. Nothing to have them involved in nothing to where they fighting my battles for me or nothing like that. You have no poverty. They didn't have to quit school to take care of the family. Like, cherished. But you got to convince a child that they're not. For a child to be fully on board and not find a way to get to you, because children find a way. I done had several family meetings just within this week where a parent tried to separate a child from another parent. And when I tell you, one of them kids called their grandparent on the other side to come and get them and take them to go see their parent. Another child called their auntie to come and get them to take them to go see their parent. So a child is going to find their way to you because it's a natural thing. It's a natural bond that you have. But when somebody severs that and they poison it and there's no reconnection, think about the damage that's caused. So, y'all, that's it for Coffee and Conversation with your girl, Shakenya. Hey, Billy. Hey, Marquita. Hey, Dale. I'm out, guys. Mwah.